Welcome to OIFM Newspaper Headlines Review for Thursday, the 25th day of April, year 2024. Your host is Michael Leshi, and I will be reeling out major reports on the cover pages of The Nation, The Guardian, and the Vanguard newspapers. Now, the first tabloid for consideration on this day is The Nation newspaper, and it has this heartwarming headline. It says, government opens Nigerians access to consumer credit with 100 billion naira. Now, that story is on the cover page of The Nation newspaper, and it continues on page 2 of the tabloid. EFCC returns recovered assets to Enugu government. That story can be found on page 4 of the same newspaper. Now, House seeks documents in probe of El-Rufai administration. You can find that story on page 7 of the Nation newspaper for today. Tax defaulting politicians to be barred from contesting. That story is on page 2 of the Nation. Now, moving to another disturbing story here. Telecom firms seek not to raise tariff. Telecom firms seek not to raise tariff. Not again. Now you can find that story on the cover page, and it continues on page 4 of the Nation. Now moving to the southern part of Nigeria. Rivers crisis. Attorney General, Finance Commissioner quit Fubara Esco. Rivers crisis. Attorney General, Finance Commissioner quit Fubara Esco. Now, to read up on the story, you can turn to page 4 of the Nation newspaper for today. And now we're moving to the Guardian newspaper, and there is this education related headline that says, FG's non-retention policy, over 5,000 first class graduates languish amid vacancies in varsities. A story can be found on page 6, and it's the biggest story on the cover page of the Guardian newspaper for today. Now moving to some security related headlines. Zulum urges establishment of military bases in Sambisa Forest and Mandara Hills. Talking about the Borno State governor urging the establishment of military bases in Sambisa Forest and Mandara Hills. Now, to read up on that story, you can turn to page 20 of the Guardian newspaper for today. Moving to some corruption related reports. EFCC withdraws appeal against order restraining Yaya Bello's arrest. A story can be found on page 6. Aviators fault interference as FG grounds Dana Air operations. Now, that story can be found on page 3 of the tabloid. FG probes bullying incident at British International School, Abuja. FG probes bullying incident at British International School in Abuja. Now, that story can be found on page 9 of the Guardian newspaper. And now we move to the final newspaper for consideration this morning, and it is the Vanguard newspaper. And there's this electricity related headline that says, why power sector crisis won't end soon, and that's according to electricity workers. A story can be found on page 14 of the Vanguard newspaper. And talking about Ukwama in Delta State, we have this one. Ukwama Ewu, over 12 residents trapped in forests die of hunger, sickness. Over 12 residents trapped in forests die of hunger, sickness. Now, that story can be found on page 14 of the Vanguard newspaper. Moving to some heartwarming news here. Hardship. Sanwo-Olu launches a co-cares intervention for 500,000 Lagosians. Hardship. Sanwo-Olu launches a co-cares intervention for 500,000 Lagosians. Talking about this scheme meant to ameliorate the situation in that state. Now, you can find that story on page 10 of the Vanguard for today. Now, moving to the final report for this morning, and it is sports related, and we have this one saying Siasia excludes Stubborn Mikel from Super Eagles all-time best 11. Siasia excludes Stubborn Mikel from Super Eagles all-time best 11. To see why Siasia has excluded the mercurial Mikel Obi from Super Eagles all-time best 11, you can pick up the Vanguard newspaper for today and turn to page 37 to find out the details of this story. Now, with this headline from the Vanguard, we've come to the conclusion of today's edition of OIFM Newspaper Headlines Review. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the show. Do have a rewarding Thursday.